Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today we will be looking at exponentiation and we will begin with zero exponent and negative exponents. Okay, now let's do some investigation to let us understand how to deal with zero exponent and negative exponents. Remember, we already looked at laws of exponents, and now we'll be using the second law of exponents to come up with how to deal with the zero exponent and negative exponents. Now we have got number 1, 5 to the power of 3 divided by 5 to the power of 3. Now, using the laws or properties of exponents, we have 5 to the power of 3 divided by 5 to the power of 3. Remember, when we are dividing bases that are the same, what we do, we only subtract the powers or the exponents. Okay, so that's why we will have 5 to the power of 3 minus 3, such that we get 5 to the power of 0. But then, what does this mean? Let us look from the definition of exponents. If I have 5 to the power of 3 divided by 5 to the power of 3, it means that I have 5 times 5 times 5 divided by 5 times 5 times 5, and this is equal to 1. So this implies that actually when I have got 5 to the power of 0, then I have got 1. Okay, now let us perform another investigation. Look, we have a to the power of 4 divided by a to the power of 4. Now, using the laws of exponents, since the bases are the same, we will subtract the powers. Okay, now 4 minus 4 will give us 0. Now we have a to the power of 0. But then a to the power of 0, what does it mean? Let us look at the definition of exponents. We have got a to the power of 4 divided by a to the power of 4. So we have a times a times a times a divided by a times a times a times a. And this is equal to 1. Now you can see that even a to the power of 0 is the same as 1. Okay, you see that a to the power of 0 is equal to 1. Okay, now this means that when you have any number to the power of 0, it will be equaling to 1. Okay, even if I have 1000 to the power of 0, it will still be 1. Okay, now let us see the negative exponent or the negative power. Look, we have 7 to the power of 3 divided by 7 to the power of 5. Using the property of exponents, you can see that since the bases are the same, we only need to subtract the powers. So we have 3 minus 5. But 3 minus 5 gives us negative 2. Now we have got 7 to the power of negative 2. But then, what does it mean? Look, if we have 7 to the power of 3, then we have 7 times 7 times 7 divided by 7 to the power of 5. That is 7 times 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. Now, from this definition, we can actually divide this 7 by this 7 to get 1. This 7 by this 7 to get 1. This one by this one to get 1. Now we are remaining with 1 out of 7 times 7. This is the same as 1 out of 7 squared. Now this means that 7 to the power of negative 2 is the same as 1 out of 7 squared. Okay? 7 to the power of negative 2 is the same as 1 out of 7 squared. We look at the final investigation. Now we have got a squared divided by a to the power of 6. This is the same as a squared minus 6, which gives us a to the power of negative 4. From the definition, we will have a times a divided by a times a times a times a times a times a. Okay? Like how we have seen in part 3, we will get this a divided by this a, we get 1. This a divided by this a, we get 1. Now we remain with 1 out of a times a times a times a, and this means 1 out of a to the power of 4. So a to the power of negative 4 is the same as 1 out of a to the power of 4. Okay? So now, what does this mean? From our investigation, we can say that let a be any number other than 0. It means that a is not 0. Then a to the power of 0 equals 1. Let a be any number other than 0, where n is a negative integer. So a to the power of negative n equals 1 out of a to the power of n. So I believe this is very understood. Now let us do some practice. Write the following exponential numbers in integer or fraction form. Okay, now let's get some solutions. Part 1. We have got a to the power of negative 5. This means that we have 1 out of 3 to the power of 5. But 3 to the power of 5 means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. This is 1 out of 243. Okay? Part 2. Negative 2 to the power of negative 4. So this is 1 out of negative 2 to the power of 4. So then we get 1 out of negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. 4 times. So this is 1 out of 16. Okay? Now we move on to part 3. We have negative 2 to the power of negative 4. So this will be negative 1 out of 2 to the power of 4. So this will be negative 1 out of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. this will be negative 1 out of 16. We look at part 4. We have got negative 2 out of 3 to the power of negative 3. This will be 1 out of negative 2 out of 3 to the power of 3. So then we have 1 out of negative 2 out of 3 times negative 2 out of 3 times negative 2 out of 3. So this will be 1 out of negative 8 out of 27. But now look, this actually means 1 divided by negative 8 out of 27. We can write this as 1 times the reciprocal of negative 8 out of 27, which is negative 27 out of 8. Now this is the same as negative 27 out of 8. So now we will write this as a mixed number such that we get negative 3 and 3 out of 8. So that becomes our answer. We look at example number 5. We have 0.8 to the power of negative 2. This will be 1 out of 0.8 squared. So this will be 1 out of 0.8 times 0.8, and this is the same as 1 out of 0.64. Okay, but now we can write 0.64 as a fraction. It will be 64 out of 100. So we have 1 divided by 64 out of 100, and this will be 1 times the reciprocal of 64 out of 100, which is 100 out of 64, so that we get 100 out of 64. So that will be 1 and 36 out of 64. But we can write 36 out of 64 in simplest form to get 1 and 9 out of 16. We look at the final example. We have negative 0.1 to the power of negative 5. This will be 1 out of negative 0.1 to the power of 5, and this will be 1 out of negative 0.1 times negative 0.1 times negative 0.1 times negative 0.1 times negative 0.1, and this will be negative 1 out of 0.00001, and then we get negative 1 divided by 1 out of 100,000, such that we get negative 1 times 100,000 out of 1. This is just the reciprocal of 1 out of 100,000. This is because we are actually dividing a fraction. So we get negative 100,000 as our final answer. I believe that you have really understood how to deal with negative exponents. Okay? Now, do some practice. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Goodbye.